crane collapse in Lower Manhattan causes chaos. One person is dead and 2 others are injured. Day 4 of the Ghomeshi Trial. TV star Lucy Ducater will take the stand again today about emails sent after an alleged assault.
3 at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa.
And are you ready for some football? This Sunday is Super Bowl 50.
Tyree just goes up for it like a bat.
Welcome to Humber News. I'm Ryan Durkee, coming to you from our newsroom here at Humber College North Campus. More dramatic testimony today at the trial of former CBC host Jean Ghomeshi. Key witness Lucy Ducater is back on the stand today for cross-examination. Our reporter Nick Westall has been covering the trial and has this report.
I'm standing outside Old City Hall Court where Day 4 of Jean Ghomeshi's trial is continuing in courtroom 125. Lucy Ducater, one of the complainants in this case, who chose not to be covered by a publication ban, is currently being cross-examined by Marie Hennen, that is Jean Ghomeshi's lawyer. Ms. Hennen asked Ms. Ducater about information she introduced in court yesterday, noting that there were a series of statements she made that were not in her police statements. She introduced many emails in quick succession. She noted that Ms. Ducater was very brief with police, didn't get into a lot of the details contained in these emails, and Ms. Ducater, for her own part, admitted that she didn't remember a lot of these emails. In 2004 in Banff, there was one exchange where she wrote to Mr. Ghomeshi that maybe suggesting they should go for a hike, have PIMS on the terrace, or a chance encounter in the broom closet. That's a direct quote from one of those emails. In another email, there's another quote, says, "Had a really great dream the other night. You were with me in Toronto. Want to hear about it?" Ms. Ducater said she was trying to neutralize the situation and trying to turn the relationship with Mr. Ghomeshi into a friendship. Ms. Ducater also said her emails were meant to be light and they were not romantic in tone. So that's the testimony this morning. We are going back into court and we will have updates for you as the case develops.
One person is dead and 2 others seriously injured after a crane collapse in Lower Manhattan this morning. The accident happened at around 8:30 in the middle of rush hour. The crane landed on an intersection and stretched an entire block of Worth Street in Tribeca. It crushed cars and smashed windows. The crane was about 18 stories high. Over 100 firefighters responded to the scene along with paramedics and police. The cause of the collapse isn't known yet. An autopsy is scheduled today on a body that was pulled from Lake Ontario on Wednesday. Toronto police say it was one of their own. News reports say the officer found was Darius Garda, who'd been on leave from his position at 51 Division. Police say they responded to a call on Wednesday that a man had fallen into the water near Polson and Cherry Streets. About 6 years ago, Garda was involved in a fatal shooting of a man after a police chase that ended not far from that same spot. There are reports that Garda was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. 3 workers are missing after a gold mine collapse in South Africa today. Around 90 miners were working at Lily Mine when a pillar crumbled, causing the buildings on top of the mine to fall into the hole.
Accident. We are mining way below that. We've been mining way below that for the last 10 years. The crown pillar collapsed. It's the area where some of our buildings stand at the top of the mine.
While dozens of miners have been rescued, 3 others who were working on the surface remain unaccounted for. BEG says a wreckage team is searching the mine for survivors. Countries across South America are ramping up their fight against the Zika virus. Authorities in Brazil, Peru, and Uruguay are among the countries fighting back against the spread with chemical fogs. Colombia reported 3 people have died from the virus today, and scientists report finding signs of Zika in urine and saliva samples. This on top of reports that people have contracted the virus from sexual intercourse and blood transfusions. The UN is now advising authorities to make reproductive counseling available to all women. Several developments today to tell you about with the migrant crisis in Europe. The head of Germany's asylum agency says about 1 million applicants will be processed this year. He says that older applicants will be dealt with within 5 months, but that time frame will drop to 3 months. Meanwhile, thousands of migrants are stuck at the Greek border without food and shelter as they wait to cross into Macedonia. The country will let only a few groups at a time, and food rations are scarce. But there's some good news. Yesterday, 70 nations pledged over $10 billion to the refugees' cause to improve conditions. A UN panel says WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange should be freed and compensated for the years he's lost. A spokesperson says that Assange's 3.5-year asylum constitutes a form of arbitrary detention, preventing him from taking up asylum in Ecuador. The computer hacker has been holed up in the Ecuador embassy in London to avoid charges on sexual assault in Sweden. Assange says the ruling is vindication.
I would like to say thank you, that I miss my family, that we have today a really significant victory that has brought a smile to my face.
Both Britain and Sweden deny that Assange has been deprived of any freedoms. Britain's Foreign Office says they will formally contest the ruling. To the U.S. primary race now, where the Democrats prove they can throw punches as well as the Republicans.
I am very proud to be the only candidate up here who does not have a super PAC, who is not raising huge sums of money from Wall Street or special interests. I am enormously proud.
Bernie Sanders continued his assault on Hillary Clinton's campaign in New Hampshire last night. Sanders says that because she accepts political donations, Clinton can be bought by Wall Street. Clinton fired back, saying that she had never changed her views because of a donation. She called for an end to the attack, saying that Sanders was above them.
So I think it's time to end the very artful smear that you and your campaign have been carrying out in recent weeks. And let's talk about the issues.
Despite an aggressive debate, both candidates say either of them is a better choice than any of the Republican candidates. Stunning new pictures today of the latest volcanic eruption in Japan. Ash flew above 2 kilometers into the air and lava flowed down the hillside. The volcano is 50 kilometers from a nuclear power plant, but hasn't affected its operations. There are no damages or injuries reported. Volcanic eruptions are common in Japan. This mountain erupts hundreds of times a year. The island country sits on the Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped fault line in the Pacific Ocean. A new report has been released on the warehouse explosion that happened in China 6 months ago. The accident killed 165 people, injured nearly 800. The report says the explosion happened because of a chemical became too dry and caught fire. Flames spread to a combustible fertilizer which caused the explosion. Officials say the company violated regulations and safety laws and may now lose its license. Criminal charges have been laid. Thousands of Roman Catholics have gathered in Vatican City to see the Pope before his historic visit to Cuba. Francis is off to meet the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church in Havana. It's a historic meeting between the two men. They'll greet leaders in Havana and speak together publicly for the first time. Cuban President Raul Castro brokered the meeting with the Pope last year. They'll sign a joint statement in Havana. When we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports, and Katie Jones will have your 3-day forecast.
Well, winter's weather might be slowly approaching, but we are still at above freezing temperatures. We'll have a high of 2 degrees today, and I'll have your full weather update after the break.
But for now, we leave you with this. As most of us here are preparing for Sunday's Super Bowl, China is putting its best foot forward for New Year festivities. It's nearly showtime as the Chinese New Year celebrations quickly approach. Performers are putting the finishing touches on their acts and getting ready to hit their cues. The New Year, also known as the Spring Festival, is the most extravagant and important annual event in Chinese culture. This year's big attractions include a special folk dance and a performer who delivers dishes while holding a table between his teeth. The Year of the Monkey celebrations kick off on February 7th.